right, so 7.1a lesson. We need to look at quadrilaterals and how they kind of, a little Venn diagram, how they relate to one another. Okay, so we've got this big giant quadrilaterals. Okay, the whole box, that whole rectangle is quadrilaterals. Four-sided figure. Quad meaning four. Okay. All right. Inside here, we've got rectangles. And we've got rhombuses. And inside here, we have squares. So what that says is it says a square is a rectangle and a square is a rhombus. It says sometimes a rhombus is a rectangle. Sometimes a rectangle is a rhombus. And all three of these things are quadrilaterals. That's what this says so far. Okay. And then around here, parallelogram would be the next chunk there. Parallelogram. So this says that rectangles, squares, and rhombuses are parallelograms always. Sometimes parallelograms are rectangles, sometimes they're squares, sometimes they're rhombuses. Okay, and then the one last thing we need to have is over here, trapezoid. Okay, a trapezoid never has anything to do with these things. These things never have anything to do with a trapezoid. However, a trapezoid is another form of a quadrilateral. Okay, so you need to understand how this Venn diagram type thing reads. Okay. All right, so we're going to do some of these riddles here. These are kind of for fun, just to kind of get in the habit of what's area, what's perimeter, and how they relate to one another. All right, so first riddle. Can you figure out the dimensions for each rectangle? Use the clues below to draw the four different rectangles described. Rectangle A has a perimeter equal to that of rectangle B. Okay. Rectangle A, this is a square. Rectangle B has an area of 24 square units. Okay, so rectangle B has an area of 24 square units. So that kind of limits. It says it is as close to a square as possible for that area if the side lengths are whole numbers. All right, so let's think about it. Could be 1 by 24, could be 2 by 12, could be 3 by 8, could be 4 by 6. Which one of these is the closest to a square? So the 4 by 6. Okay, the 4 by 6 is going to be B. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write that now. So that's 6, that's 4, that's 6, that's 4. Okay, so far, oops, sorry guys, I needed to put that up. So far that's what I got out of reading the first 3 bullets. Okay, but I still have to back up to the first bullet again. It says rectangle A has a perimeter equal to that of B, and it's a square. So let's look at the perimeter of this thing, 20. Okay, so if I need perimeter of 20, that's a square, I'm looking at a 5 by 5 by 5 by 5. Okay, 5 by 5. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. 5 units, 5 units. Okay, so the perimeter is 20 units. The area is 25 units squared. Let's do the same thing over here. Perimeter is 20 units. Area is 24 units squared. All right, rectangle C, I'm down here. Rectangle C is a perimeter equal to the measure of the area of B. So we need the perimeter of C to be 24. Rectangle C's length is 3 times the width. Okay, so we need the perimeter to be 24. So let's think about that. If the perimeter is 24, we could have a 1 by 11. I'm just kind of jotting some 2 by 10, 3 by 9. Think about those perimeters. Don't multiply them. 4 times 8, 5 times 5 by 7, or 6 by 6. Okay, all of those are options for a perimeter of 24. Okay, now we need to make sure, let me go back up to the clue. We need to make sure the perimeter is equal to the measure of the area. So we need that to be 24, and we need the length to be 3 times the width. Well, this isn't. This isn't. Ooh, that one. This isn't, this isn't, this isn't. So it's going to be a 3 by 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 by 3. Okay, and I'm going to do perimeter, we said was 24 units. And the area is 27 units squared. All right, let's go back up to the last clue. Rectangle D has 2 different odd integers as length and width. Each is 1 greater than the length and the width of rectangle B. B. So 1 greater would be 7 by 5. And those are odd. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, kind of came off that line, but probably should be using a straight edge here. So I don't do that. All right, so this is 7 and this is 5. Perimeter is 24 units. Area is 35 units squared. All right, riddle number 1, done. All right, next problem here. It says use words and models to explain the difference between perimeter and area. Be sure to discuss the differences in units of each in your answer. Okay, so perimeter is the measure around. The outside of an object. It is one-dimensional, measured in some sort of units. Area is the measure of the space inside a two-dimensional object measured in units squared. Okay, so think of a couple of examples could be so kind of adding up this outside for perimeter. Okay, and then this guy would be the space inside here. Okay. All right. Riddle number 2. Can you figure out the dimensions for each rectangle? Use the clues below to draw the 4 rectangles described. The numeric measure of the rectangle in E is twice the number representing the perimeter. Rectangle E is 8 units wide. Okay, so let's read on and see. I don't know that I have enough information to get started. That has information, but not enough to get going. Rectangle F is the same number representing the area and perimeter. The perimeter is half the rectangle, half the perimeter of rectangle E. Okay, so let's start thinking about just some options here. Rectangle, that goes down to G. Okay, so numeric measure of the area is twice the number representing perimeter. Rectangle E is 8 units wide. Okay, so if we have 8 units wide on E, let me draw that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boxes are a tad smaller than the last page. All right, so we know that that's 8 units wide. And then this is going to be twice this. So we know then that this is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. F has the same number representing area and perimeter. Okay, well, let's think about that. Area and perimeter, you've got to play with numbers a bit here. Okay, and the only thing I can think of is a 4 by 4 by 4. Okay, that gets us perimeter is 16 units and area is 16 units squared. Okay, it says the perimeter is half the perimeter in E. Okay, so we need a perimeter of 32 over here. We need a perimeter of 32. So if this is 8, it would need to be an 8 by 8. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then we'll make sure that we have all these. So area then would be 64 units squared. Okay, let's make sure that the first couple of clues are good. The numeric measure of the area of E, 64, is twice the number representing perimeter. Yes, so 32 and 64, that makes sense. Rectangle E is 8 units. Okay, so bullet 1 is taken care of. Rectangle F has the same number representing the area and perimeter. Yep. And it says the perimeter is half the perimeter of rectangle. Yes, so half that. Okay, first 2 bullets is good. Rectangle G has the same length as rectangle E, so we need an 8 involved with this one. 1, 2, 3. Let me scooch it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, did I count 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay, that's 8. The area of rectangle G is equal to the difference between the rectangles in areas E and F. Okay, the difference of these, you guys, 64 minus 16 is going to be 48. So area equals 48 units squared. That means that it's going to be by 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that means the perimeter is 28. Okay. Rectangle H has an area of 6 units less than the area of G. So 6 units less than, so we need an area of 42 units squared, and a width 2 units more than the width of F. So if this was 1, 2, 4, 2 units more would be 6. So we need a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 by 7 would give us an area of 42. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 7. All right, so that gives us, let me just finish this one through 26. Perimeter is 26 units. All right, so what helped me most to accomplish this riddle? Okay, I think knowing that E was 8 units wide helped me start. That helped me get started. And then kind of had a list of possibilities that, okay, so knowing that E was 8 units wide was a good place to start for me. Okay. Number 4, list as many rectangles as you can that have an area of 36 square units. Okay, so let's just say all lengths are in units, and then I don't have to write units on everything. All right, 36 square units area, that would be that. 2 by 18 would also get me that. 3 by 12 would get me that. 4 by 9, 5 doesn't work. 6 by 6, and that's it. Draw 2 different parallelograms that have the same area, label the base and height, and state their area. Okay, so let me do 2 different parallelograms. Isn't a rectangle a parallelogram? Excuse me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll just start with a 5 by 3. Okay, so this has 15 units squared as an area. Okay, now another parallelogram, couldn't I do 5? And then couldn't I do 5 by 3? This is 15 units squared also. Okay, one version. Explain the method I used. I started simple. I started with a simple rectangle of any size, then made a parallelogram with the same area. All right, draw two different triangles that have an area of 12 square units. Label the base and height of each triangle. All right, if I need 12 square units and it's a triangle, don't I need the base times the height to be 24? Okay, so let's do a right angled one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 4. 6 by 4. Okay, so that gets me area 1/2 base times height, 1/2 6 by 4, 12 units squared. Okay, I think that's probably the easy one. Now let's do one that's a 6 by 4, but it's not a right. There's the same thing. Okay, but shouldn't say the same thing. The area is the same, but the shapes are very different. Okay, I still have my 1/2 base times height, 1/2 6 by 4, which is 12 units squared. All right, the method I used for that one. So the method I used, I made sure that they both had, the same size base of 6 and height of 4 units. Okay, and then one triangle was a right triangle. That was the easy one. And the other, isosceles. Suppose you start with a rectangle that has a base length of 6 and a height of 6. If you triple the length of the base, what do you have to do to the height to have a new rectangle with the same area as the original rectangle? All right, well, if I triple one, wouldn't I have to third another? Okay, so let's look at that. 6 by 4, the area would be 24. If I triple the length of the base, wouldn't I have to take a third of this one? So I tripled this. Let me write that here. And then 4 times a third. Okay, so if I have 18 over 1 times 4 thirds, that would end up being 24. Okay, so if the base is tripled, the height would, oh my goodness, guys, I'm having a hard time writing here. The height would need to be multiplied by a third or divided by 3 to get the same area as original. All right, so you should be more familiarized with perimeter and area and how they relate to one another. Thanks, guys.